This is awesome.
Oh, Clark, hey. Good to see you among the living, man. Check it out. It's the latest talent mix.
Thanks, Pete.
Good to see you all among the living. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talon Mix. It's normally a Smallville recap podcast, but today we are coming to you from the Phantom Zone, the liminal, timeless space from which we record evergreen podcast content, and mysteriously they will post when, I don't know, maybe we need an off week, or one of us with an infant, suddenly something unexpected comes up and we just have something ready to go. I'm here as always with my pal Zach. Zach, do you remember how we ended up in this space free from time and space?
Well, it's a little bit fuzzy, but I think we destroyed Krypton and then
I was worried that was it.
Of giant heads damned us to spend the rest of eternity in a triangular shaped prison. Guilty.
We did swear that Jor-El, of course, was the final vote, and we did swear that we would one day get revenge if because it'd be all his fault for being the unanimous vote.
I know that we swore, but I do feel like it was a little arbitrary since there were several jurors, and we just picked him at the end.
I guess that's not fair, but we were angry.
But you know what? He's the only one with the surviving heir to get revenge on anyway.
Exactly. That said, in the Phantom Zone, it's not that bad. We got a pile of DVDs over here, mostly of like superhero movies.
Yeah, it's a limited selection, but luckily for us, it's all tangentially related to our podcast.
Which is great. Some of them more of a stretch than others. So this is basically evergreen podcast content.
Luckily, the safe containing Doctor Strange and Mission Impossible is still with us. It came with us.
That was a requirement of like my wife when I got stuck in the Phantom, like, take this with you.
Yeah. Do you know how much space this takes up in our fucking den?
Emily is happy to be rid of it. So, Zach, this week we watched Superman Returns, the fifth theatrically released Superman film. I think we got a lot to say about it.
Yep.
I guess the best place to start is this movie came out in 2006, which we are not quite up to in Smallville, but I think we're in 2005 in the liminal space that I remember. Time is meaningless here in the Phantom Zone, but that's what I remember.
We are, the season is 0405 Smallville.
Right. Okay. So this is 2006.
Right. So we're a year behind. So pretty close.
What do you remember about this movie coming out, and what did you think about it at the time?
Well, do we want to talk about the lead up to the movie first, or do you just want to hear my reaction?
I was thinking like broad, your 2006 reaction.
Yeah. So my only real experience with Superman, because I'm sure I had seen the movie when I was too young to remember. I knew the music. I knew of the imagery. I had watched a little bit of Lois and Clark. Did not really watch the cartoon. I was a Batman loyalist. And then Smallville was the only entry point I had. So I was disappointed at the time that the Lex Luthor character was way different than what he is in Smallville.
Yes, not even similar.
Right. And I missed like sort of any relationship at all between him and Superman, like other than like, you put me in jail one time. That said, I remember thinking it was way too long. but I think I liked it. I saw it twice in theater, so I didn't hate it.
Sure.
There were some impressive visuals. The effects, certainly for the time, were pretty cool.
Definitely. It's an expensive movie.
Yes.
The money's on the screen.
So I think at the time I was meh on it. I was like, all right.
Right.
Like B plus, B minus range.
I was a vocal fan of it. I quite liked it. Now, I would have, contrary to you, I would have called myself a Superman fan at the time, which I still would. I was excited for a Superman movie. I was working at a movie theater at the time. I was supposed to be working the midnight shift. I traded with someone so I could see the movie at midnight. I was very, very happy with it. I would fight anyone who had any sort of different opinion on it, any chance I got.
I think maybe we did have that argument.
Oh, surely. I loved it. The DVD was in regular rotation in my house. I will get it. I'm interested in unpacking here. Maybe why I felt that way.
Well,
because this was a humbling rewatch. I'll say that. My thoughts have changed.
Certainly, but I will say you were not alone. It had quite a polarizing set of reactions from it.
I think critically it was reasonably well received at the time.
Yeah, pretty much I think my reaction was the general reaction, but there were a lot of people who were like, "Oh no, this is great. This is actually you don't get it." I
definitely thought it was great.
Like, you don't get it. This is actually almost a masterpiece.
That's what I would have said.
There were a lot of people, and I think a lot of them were young men.
I think that has a lot to do with it. I think, not to get too into we'll get into like opinions on the movie. Now in the year of our Lord, scrambly mark is in the Phantom Zone. We cannot tell time.
The year 20. Yeah.
Screaming demon noise. But I think because it was a slower paced movie, and there's some there's photography that looks expensive in this movie.
Oh,
and
the
it's
money's
very
on screen. The money's on screen.
And it's because it's so slowly paced and kind of different from your typical action superhero movie. I definitely had a bit of the stick up my ass, chip on my shoulder of this is serious art, Dad.
Right. Yeah.
You know, this is taking itself seriously, so I get to take it seriously. It's not just a cartoon, Dad. I think that had to have played a very large part of it. The very thing I make fun of Snyder fans for now. I come from a place of deep knowledge of.
Right, yeah, yes, you mean both. I mean, I remember I had this similar thing with Nolan Batman Begins and then The Dark Knight, where I was like, yes, it's dark and serious. Yes.
Right.
Because
that's how it's quote unquote supposed to be.
Yeah, right.
Very heavy, quote unquote.
Look, I'm glad we got our dark, serious Batman. It's especially fun when you are 20 years old or something like that.
Right.
But dark and serious, what we would come to learn doesn't mean good.
No, it does not.
We got lucky in that one of the most talented directors working made the dark and serious Batman movie.
Right. Which, it's worth noting, we've talked about, are fun movies. They're very fun comic booky movies.
He didn't forget to make them fun.
Right.
That was actually probably the most important part. Was he's like,
right.
Okay, they gotta be fun.
Make no mistake, summer blockbuster movie.
I remember hearing or reading at the time that the poster he always has a poster of a movie when he's writing a movie, in his workroom, to kind of inspire. And when he was writing Batman Begins, he had Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right. Yeah.
Because he's like, I want it to be a fun, big movie.
Similarly to that, it's funny how Matt Reeves is the Batman, a movie we've both said that we've liked quite a bit. I think similarly is quote unquote dark and serious, quote unquote. But like Matt Reeves knows it's funny to have Batman at a crime scene.
Right. Yes.
So, you know, it's having fun with that.
For sure. Well, you know,
some of these other movies aren't.
He's like, you can't do this and not point out that it's absurd.
Right.
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 I mean, the Burton movies had it too. Of like,
yes.
I mean, that's like a heightened weird reality.
That said, I don't know if I think Superman Returns does that very well. I don't think this is a very fun movie. I think it's got moments, but not high marked moments.
No.
I guess just get it. We'll get into the history of the movie next, I think. But this took me four watch periods.
You and I were texting, and I think you said it best. The pacing of this movie is an actual crime.
It's a crime. It's so slow.
Yes.
I smoked a bit of a joint and thought like this'll help, and I literally thought I'm not wasting weed on this. And I watched YouTube videos instead. Yeah, right. And then so I watched the rest this morning. It took 4, like, I've watched enough of this, back up. Like, I watched it probably in 25-minute chunks until finishing it today. Oh, I really, really struggled with it. It's a grind. It is a grind, dude.
It is, and maybe we'll get into this with some of our behind the scenes research that we did on Wikipedia.
Yeah, right.
But it does feel like a movie where no one told them no. Where no one was like, you got to cut it down a little bit. You got to take this out because it's just, it has a feeling of like I remember when Arrested Development did that first season on Netflix.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's actually good when it has to be 22 minutes.
Yes.
When you can just do 35 minutes, it's not. You're just leaving
it's like you gotta kill some of those babies a little bit. Yes. I think season 6 of Community does not suffer the same way as Arrested Development, but there's still a little like
there's a little of that. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's some episodes that would be stronger at 20. It's nowhere near as bad. It's season 6 of Community is a good season of Community.
Yes, agreed.
But all right, so I guess getting into the where should we start with the history? We're kind of, I don't have an outline here.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, basically, we left off with Superman 4.
You can find that back in the timeline, like February of 2023. You can find our Superman episodes. Yeah.
Right. Which was a historic bomb, considered one of the worst movies ever made. You and I do not think that's the case, but
I had more fun with it than I do this one.
Absolutely. It effectively ended the series, right?
Of which, maybe if this had been successful, maybe they would have done more. It certainly was supposed to be like a final curtain call for a lot of people. Christopher Reeve didn't want to do 3. He didn't want to do 4. It was all promises of other projects that got him those other 2 times. I don't know if a 5 would have happened.
What year was that? The last one? It must have been.
I want to say mid 80s. Superman 4, 87.
87.
Which is later than I thought. Later than I would have guessed.
So that movie effectively ends the Superman series. Then a little movie called Batman comes out in 1989 and is like the biggest thing that ever happened.
Yep.
And I have to assume that, I don't know what the rights situation was, but I have to assume that right after that movie blew up, someone at the studio was like, okay, now we got to figure out. Right? We got to get Superman going again.
It's because there were a large number of Batman knockoffs around that time. That was The Phantom, Alec Baldwin in like The Shadow,
Darkman,
Darkman. Dick Tracy, I think, was even following Batman.
Totally.
Pulpy, sort of. It's funny they all, and I guess these are the rights to the characters they could have gotten. They were all going like pulpy, darker comic characters.
The funny thing is, like, for like a decade, anyone in Hollywood, because they didn't read comics, thought like, oh, a comic book movie has to be like a Tim Burton movie.
Yes. Yes.
And it's like, no, it doesn't. I love the Tim Burton stuff, but
it's also funny because I think largely comic book fans were not super, like, real comic book nerds weren't super stoked with Burton's Batman.
I think at the time they were stoked that it was not like the TV show.
Right.
That it wasn't silly. Like it was somewhat serious and good. But I do think with time they were like, but that's not really accurate to this, that, and the other thing.
I gotta say, I'm not to get too off track. Well, we'll talk about it eventually. We'll talk about the larger plan here in the Phantom Zone. We've had time to figure it out. I'm not the biggest fan of that first movie. I'm much more of a Returns guy.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in my life, I would say I think Returns is a 5-star movie. And I think the one Batman is maybe 4 stars.
I haven't seen it in a while. Maybe I'll have an occasion to watch it again soon.
I watched both of those movies growing up hundreds of times, the old VHS tape. So I have deep love in my heart for both of them. But,
sure.
So anyway, I think it was when they did the Death of Superman comic run that it really kicked into gear, because that was financially, if not creatively, successful. Right.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
So
it led to a bunch of people like buying up variant covered comics. I think thinking they'd be worthless. They're worthless.
Yes. I remember I was at the comic store. I was like just like peripherally interested in comics because I love Batman.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom was with me and she asked for a recommendation. The guy was like, you got to get the Batman Nightfall. It was the issue where Bane breaks his back.
Right.
Because he's like, this is the Death of Superman, but for Batman.
Yeah.
You got to get this one. I still have it.
So hey, that's a very popular. It's funny, these storylines that they were just to sell fucking books, man. And of course they were.
Yeah.
But like just to get some sort of attention, every now and again they kill a major character.
I remember it was such a big deal when they after they killed Superman back, they brought back like 4 different incarnations of him. Right? There was like a cyborg Superman and a
Steel, which also got a movie. Oh man, do we have to watch Steel at some point for being
we
the
do
most?
Not have to watch Steel. I mean, I guess it depends on how long we're in the Phantom Zone.
Yeah, right. I mean, we are looking at the DVD right there. I believe it's full screen.
That's actually the preferred way to watch Steel.
Yeah. Less of it, less.
Yeah. On TV.
Pan and scan so I don't have to look at the whole thing.
With the swear words edited out.
Yeah.
Okay, so that happens, and I think that really is when the studios are like, oh, that's our angle. We'll do the Death of Superman. So I know they had a bunch of scripts written that didn't ultimately go anywhere, and then they brought Kevin Smith in, and you can watch that whole stand-up thing he does. It's fucking hilarious about writing that and working with crazy man John Peters.
Right.
And then they bring in Tim Burton. Oh no, first they bring in Nick Cage.
Nick Cage is cast first, yes.
I believe, yes. And there was a different director, I can't remember who, but then Nick Cage is like, I want to work with Tim Burton. I mean, he did Batman.
It's funny, I've read Studio was mostly stoked to bring Tim Burton in.
I mean, at that point, he hasn't like failed too hard yet, right? I mean,
right.
He had Batman. He had Edward Scissorhands. He had Batman Returns, all successful.
I think Batman Returns, I think, was significantly less successful than Batman. Certainly. And I thought the relationship was a little tough because Tim Burton was so opposed to the marketability. And in fact, made Batman Returns as like untoy friendly as possible.
Right. They were upset, because the parents were upset. Right. I
wonder if there was any like, all right, we want you for Superman, but like Come on, man.
Well, he thought he was going to do Batman forever, the third Batman, and they were like,
Right.
Don't you want to do something else? You know,
I believe from his perspective, he quit. At least that's what I heard last time.
He told that story where he was like talking about with the executives about ideas for the third one, and they were like, "Don't you want to take a break? You know, don't you want to do something else?"
Yeah, got it.
So maybe he quit at that point, but so I wonder if they were just like, "There's only so many people who know how to do these fucking things." I don't know.
Right. I mean, surely, like, even if you're, even if McDonald's is a little mad at the fucking merchandising deal here, I believe they were the main problem. It was specifically McDonald's. Yeah, like, what the fuck, man?
Right.
Tim Burton, I believe, specifically said on Howard Stern at some point, like, these fucking movies, like, they start with the Happy Meal toys. You have to work backwards from the Happy Meal deal.
Yeah.
Which isn't great for the creative process.
I mean, that's what Batman and Robin was, right?
Pretty much.
But the problem is, if your movie blows, the kids don't want the Happy Meal anyway. They don't want the fucking toy.
So I wonder how much of a conversation that was when Tim Burton was on. Was this just called Superman Lives?
Yeah, I think Kevin Smith came up with that.
Got it. So there are photos of Nick Cage in costume, a costume fitting for Superman. Yeah. We don't know a ton of what this movie is, right? I don't know how much of it is floating out there.
I could read a synopsis of the Tim Burton one.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let me pull it up. You just have to vamp for a second.
Yeah, I think my understanding of this is that the WB eventually kind of got cold feet on it. They maybe had a couple of misses around the time, and then like the script wasn't really coming together. And like, even though Nicolas Cage had like a pay or play on it, where like he's getting paid no matter what, they pulled the plug and like, maybe we're not going to do this. Which I'm modestly curious about what this, and more than modestly, don't get me wrong. If someone was like, I have it, I'd be like, yeah, of course, let me fucking see it. I don't know if I'd say Tim Burton's the right call for Superman.
Right. Okay, here you go.
That makes sense.
Do you want this is a few paragraphs. I'm going to just read you the whole script. The story opens in flashback with Krypton on the verge of explosion. We've seen that before.
Right.
As Jor-El and Laura are placing baby Kal-El in his rocket, Brainiac, who is responsible for this destruction, enters and attacks them. Jor-El manages
so I assume this is this wasn't supposed to be like Superman 5 or anything.
No, this is the whole new, whole new thing. Jor-El manages to ignite the rocket just as he and Laura are murdered by Brainiac. The cyborg vows to hunt down the child. Not sure why. I'm sure that was clarified in the script, but... The story then moves to modern-day Metropolis, where we see the now-adult Superman stop a bank robbery. That evening, he meets Lois Lane at the Daily Planet building in a scene reminiscent of the Kevin Smith draft, except in this draft, Lois doesn't know of his dual identity as Clark Kent. During this time, it's established that Kent's identity is in danger, as Lex Luthor may be on the verge of discovering it and revealing it to the world. Clark considers telling Lois before this happens. Brainiac comes to Earth and encounters Luthor. The two devise a plan to destroy Superman. They begin by merging into a single cyborg entity known as Lexiac. Oh no!
I hate when that happens.
Oh no!
We'll get to. I don't think Brainiac is always on like the almost. He's probably Superman's like second man. Probably Zod. Zod's probably the second most.
If it's not villain. Brainiac in the James Gunn movie, I'm going to be shocked.
It's gotta be. Brainiac's been underutilized. It's
gotta be Brainiac. One of the great Smallville villains, Brainiac.
Yes. He'll be coming soon.
Yes, yep. Lexiac creates the creature Doomsday to attack Superman. Superman and Doomsday battle to the death, after which time, in a public funeral, the Man of Steel's body is transported to the Fortress of Solitude. The body is revived, powerless, by a mysterious Kryptonian force known only as K. Right. Superman and Kay leave the fortress and trek back to Metropolis. Just so you know, this is also in my research. They were hoping that Tim Burton was hoping that Michael Keaton would do a cameo as Bruce Wayne during the funeral.
I also read that. That would have blown everybody's fucking mind.
Yes, that would have been so ahead of its time.
Where are we in time here? Is Val Kilmer already Batman? Like.
Yeah, I think he is. Yep, I think this is this is probably when they're making Batman and Robin. Honestly.
So wow, that's interesting. That would be a no-no today. Well, not even anymore. Now it's just back to okay again if you make it a multiverse.
Yeah, right. During this time, Lexiac, an advanced alien force with the resources of a multinational conglomerate at its disposal, plans to destroy Earth just as he did Krypton. He begins assembling an arsenal of nuclear warheads to be detonated on all the world's top cities. He also spends a great amount of time attempting unsuccessfully to woo a grieving Lois Lane. Why would Brainiac do that? That's so
Brainiac's got to get in there.
That's just mean-spirited. If you want to blow up the world, that's one thing, but Superman returns to Metropolis and has his powers restored by K, which is revealed to be the remaining life essence of his deceased biological parents. We played that card before in the movies.
Yeah, right.
Superman, with the flirtatious assistance of Lois, defeats Lexiac, destroying the Brainiac element, with exactly 1 second left on the nuclear clock. This is the early draft, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
The story ends with Lois in Superman's arms, where she reveals that she is pregnant with his child. So I'm not crazy about the script, but look, I would have wanted to see Tim Burton and Nick Cage's Superman, right?
It certainly would have been interesting.
Right. Like, I don't think Superman fans would have been happy. I would have been happy.
Yeah.
I think. Like,
maybe.
It's
certainly possible.
Maybe not at the time, but I think you and I now would have been really happy recapping.
I'd be glad this
Superman
existed.
Lives. Yeah. Anyway, they were literally weeks away from starting production. Sandra Bullock was going to be Lois Lane.
Wow.
I think, was Christopher Walken Brainiac? Hold on.
That sounds right. I think I also read that.
Yeah. Who was Lex Luthor? Was that Kevin Spacey also?
I don't know. I don't know if I read that.
It says, okay, so Chris Rock is Jimmy Olsen.
That's kind of fun.
Sandra Bullock, that's like a 90s like token, like.
Yeah.
For sure. We can't have it be Superman. Sandra Bullock as Lois Lane and Christopher Walken as Brainiac. Give me that. Give me it, Brian. They were literally weeks away from starting production, and Warner Brothers was like, wait.
Yeah, maybe we don't.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't. Which is
some
funny.
other movie had bombed. I'm not sure what movie had bombed, but
which is funny considering Batman Forever made fucking money.
#1 movie of that year.
Yeah, money massively, way more successful than Batman Returns.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Let's see. I want to see what movie did it into them.
Yeah, right. Man, I wish they'd got something. I wish there was something we could have looked at. Just some.
Yeah, I mean, there is a documentary about it, and they have a lot of concept art and stuff. That's kind of cool.
Got it. Yeah, I haven't seen it. Is it? I guess I struggle not envisioning it as very Batman style, even though I'm sure it had a different look.
I mean, that's what a lot of the concept art was very Tim Burton. So I think it started out with the Superman suit, the normal one, and that kind of vibe. And then when he's reborn, it's like the Tim Burton.
Got it.
It definitely seems like that area where they were embarrassed of Superman.
Yes. John Peters, who was involved in Batman, who's a producer on Batman, was involved in this Superman resurgence, and it was his law that we would later see in Smallville, the no tights, no flights. He didn't want Superman with the fucking underwear on the outside, and he didn't want Superman flying around. And I believe that was a mandate going into this movie.
The flying seems like a pretty important aspect to it. I know he didn't always fly in the comics.
He didn't always fly. Sometimes he just jumped.
But I think if people going to see a Superman movie in 1998 or whatever it would have been, and he's not flying.
It was like the fucking tagline.
Yeah. You
The
believe
first
a man can
movie.
fly, yeah.
We really banked the whole thing on that.
So they canned this movie before it begins shooting. A couple other ones almost come to fruition. I know J.J. Abrams had a script.
A Superman flyby.
Yeah, and I just remember hearing the concept. And what's it going to be, Brendan Fraser?
I don't know.
At one point.
I don't know. I don't even know. If I read, I feel like I tried to look for the script at some point, and maybe it was available, but I don't think I actually read it. I don't remember what the concept of it was. But fun fact, it was at one point to be directed by Brett Ratner, which is very funny considering how things would eventually play out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Also, at one point, very close to being directed by Mick G.
Right.
Film auteur.
I saw Terminator Salvation 4 times in theaters, so that's a cool thing I did. I didn't even like it. I didn't even think it was good. I just liked Terminator that much.
Okay, as long as you knew it wasn't good.
No,
there's a movie that should have been good, and that I wanted to be good.
Should have been good.
That was where they should have gone with Terminator sequels.
Yes,
it's like, let's go to the future. Let's do that whole thing. That was the right idea, and it was the right cast, and they just did not deliver.
It's a real piece of shit.
Yeah.
So another fun fact: Amy Adams, I believe, auditioned to be Lois Lane in Superman Flyby for Brett Ratner. That did not work out, but it's funny. She would also audition again in the movie we're talking about today, fully.
It says in here, I'm looking at from Flyby, Ratner approached Josh Hartnett and Jude Law as Superman.
Interesting. Also interesting, given some things we'll learn about Superman Returns.
And then Christopher Walken was in negotiations for Perry White.
Interesting. That's fun. Perry White, not a casting I'm usually worried about. But
Christopher Reeve was to be a project consultant, citing Tom Welling, who portrayed the teenage Clark Kent in Smallville, as an ideal candidate.
He did like Tom. He liked Tom.
Yeah.
I believe there's a story. What's that?
In addition, Paul Walker was offered the role, while Ashton Kutcher screen tested and Brendan Fraser and Matt Bomer auditioned.
Interesting.
Oh my gosh.
I want to talk more about the Tom Welling of it all, but apparently Christopher Reeve, during a shooting day of Smallville, told Welling, "I'm so glad they picked you to be the new Superman," and Tom Welling had to be like, "They didn't." And Reeve just be like, "Oh, well, they made a mistake."
Is that true? That's great.
That is Tom Welling told that on the on Rosenbaum's podcast at some point.
That's funny.
Is it true? I don't know. I know Tom Welling said that.
Mick G approached Shia LaBeouf for Jimmy Olsen.
I could see that.
Yep. How old was he at the time? He was still like Cole's age. With an interest to cast an unknown for Superman, Scarlett Johansson and Sophia Bush as Lois Lane, and Johnny Depp and Robert Downey Jr. for Lex Luthor. God,
interesting.
Some of these people just pop up in other comic book movies.
It's all just like a who's who of who's hot right now. Of course, they're reaching out to people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yep. So anyway, that movie didn't happen. And then, meanwhile, in Marvel,
right,
a movie called X-Men comes out in 2000.
Right.
A huge success. A movie called X2 comes out in 2003. Even bigger success, even better movie.
Good movie. I think X2 is a good movie. I haven't seen it in a long time.
A good movie, yes. And then Mr. Bryan Singer decides that he has an idea for a Superman movie.
Right. Also, I don't know, just throwing out there, we all know, just everyone, Bryan Singer's a sex criminal. He's a bad guy. Okay, moving on. Acknowledged. We're not going to talk about it more. Sex criminal, bad dude.
Yeah, I mean, we should just up top.
Kevin Spacey.
I don't think it's controversial to say Bryan Singer has directed some good movies, and Kevin Spacey at one time was one of our best actors.
Yes, both sex criminals. Probably together. Ugh.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah. All right, back to silly comic books. So my understanding here is Singer had an idea for a Superman movie about Superman being gone for 5 years and then returning to Earth. And then he pitched this, I believe, to Richard Donner, who liked it. And that kind of moved things forward for Singer.
And then he made the weird decision to cast completely children in a movie about adults reconciling with their past decisions as adults. He casts all early 20-somethings.
Young cast. Yeah. Which, it's funny, when I saw it in 2006, I was 17, and they all looked like adults to me. I don't know.
I honestly, at the time, I remember being bothered by it too, because I was doing math. I was like, wait.
Right.
5 years ago. So Kate Bosworth, when they're filming this, I looked it up. 23 years old.
Holy shit.
Brandon Routh, 26 when they're filming this. So that
younger than Tom Welling at the time.
Christian
he's
Bale,
still younger than Tom Welling to this day.
Yeah, this movie is about Superman later in his career coming back. Christian Bale playing Batman at the beginning of his career, 31 years old.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago, Lois Lane would have been 18.
Yep. Already very established reporter.
Yeah. Superman would have been 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it does feel, and we'll get to this, I'm way ahead of the curve. It feels like they're playing grown-ups in this movie.
It's got that vibe throughout.
Like, just get grown-ups.
Mixed with the fact that nobody in it is, like, very good. No one's got it's not fair to throw, I'm getting way ahead of myself, but it's not fair to just be like, well, he's no Christopher Reeve. Of course he's not.
But I think that part of the problem is they're asking him to play older.
This sucks. This job sucks.
Superman.
Yeah.
If they had asked him to play young, up-and-coming Superman, I think he does a better job. He's not Christopher Reeve, no.
No.
He can sell that better than... and just like, oh, poor Kate Bosworth, who I like, is like, she's playing like this, like, she's supposed to be in her mid-30s single mom, is like,
right,
the
God.
part.
She's 23. God. Yeah, I also don't think Routh, and God, we're so ahead of ourselves, but it's a casual, free-flowing conversation here in the Phantom Zone.
It doesn't matter, yeah.
You're entering conversations at varying points in times, all matched together. It's all logical and ordered for us. I don't think just do Christopher Reeve is a fun acting challenge, you know?
No. But also, it's like, that's another huge problem with this is that it's just do Donner and Christopher Reeve, but also the script is not going to be that at all.
Right.
Like, obviously, they have 100 callbacks and moments just taken from those movies, but really the tone and everything, this is not at all. But do Christopher Reeve, but in this weird, different kind of thing.
None of the Gee-Whiz adventure.
No.
It's also weird, I think. So this movie starts moving. I guess, yeah.
We can just get into it now. Yeah,
right.
He decides to make this movie.
Reverential to the Donner movie. It's a Singer has said multiple times he's not a fan of comic books. This was not an attempt to like tell a new Superman story. It was a nostalgic for its own self kind of thing. In a way, Force Awakens is similar, but still did better. You know. Yes. Force Awakens is a much more fun movie than this is.
Funny. It's funny how opposite it was in the 80s and 90s, where like you have Tim Burton and Bryan Singer directing two of the biggest superhero properties and saying shit like, I don't read comic books. Whereas now it's like, I'm a huge fan that's going to be totally loyal. Yeah. I promise, please, I'm begging you, don't be mad.
It's gonna be exactly like the fucking funny books that also you don't read because comic sales are so down. None of you, this is all fake. None of you read these. Comic sales are non-existent. You are all liars.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not faithful to the comics. And by comics, I mean the animated series I watched when I was 6 years old.
Yeah, I guess that's the big problem, right? Is it's the Donner movie, but nothing that it's the Donner movie is also, we've talked about it before when we did that episode, but the Donner movie's thing, its point, its true point. Every movie has a point. It's a collection of scenes that have some sort of point. And sometimes the point is, remember that character from your childhood. We had a big budget. We made it into a movie.
Literally opens with like, remember funny books? You know, like the old black and white or sepia tone, whatever.
Right. And I guess this is kind of, hey, remember that movie? Yeah, it's on DVD, bud. Looks also better than it ever did.
That the first Donner movie we talked about, this had an element of like Man Out of Time element, where it was almost like Superman from the 20s, whatever, transported to the 70s.
Yes,
that's essentially what it is, and that is totally missing from this movie.
And like, I guess it would have been weird here if it was, but also it's literally a movie about how he's been gone and has come back, and that would actually work really perfectly. Yeah. That element instead. Great point. It's yeah, but, what is this movie doing? What is the point of this movie?
I could see this basic concept working really well with Kidder and Reeve, but if they were in it, it would also be funny in a way that this movie is not. There are some funny moments, which I've noted, but really, there's not a lot of levity here.
No, it's all very grandeur.
Yes.
And like, this is important, which I ate up at something. Like, yummy, 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 yummy. Give me, take that, Dad. But like, and it's just no fun.
No, I mean, I think if it had the pace was not so snail-like, it would have been more fun, because there are fun moments, but there's so few. It's so long between fun moments.
Right. And I also think like there's no density to it. If that makes, I can't quite articulate what that means to me, but like The Dark Knight is a very long movie.
It's not about
like, you kind of sit back. What's that?
So yeah, but it's not about length.
Right. It's you sit back and you watch The Dark Knight and like, fuck, this movie's moving, you know? Like,
there's like 6 movies worth of stuff in The Dark Knight. In a good way. That can happen in a bad way, but in a good way.
And don't get me wrong, third act of Dark Knight gets a little weird, but good movie. Good fucking movie. No one's disputing that.
This feels like an hour and a half of script stretched to 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
What happens in this movie? Like 3 things happen.
Nothing.
He comes back. Nothing happens for a long time, except for he takes Lois Lane and doesn't kiss her or whatever, and like
doesn't even look like he wants stuff.
The inciting incident of Lex and his scheme doesn't happen until real late in the movie. Now, I know what people might say, well, that's the same with the original Superman, except for that wasn't about that. That was like Superman biopic. Here's the different stages of his life.
Yes.
But it's just a whole lot of nothing happens in this movie.
And I think we talked about this briefly. I think this movie, it still would need some restructuring. And I think maybe this should have been the focal point. I think the approach this movie should have taken big romantic spectacle. I think closer to Titanic than Batman Begins. You know what I mean?
Think that's what they're going for.
I also think that they don't nail it. Mostly because there's no fucking sex in this movie. I don't mean literally sex scenes, but like
no chemistry.
No chemistry. Superman and Lois Lane, at one point, they take a flight at night over the city. and they're talking, their faces close to one another, and they look like their faces are just close to one another. Like that should be a like they're kind of like they shouldn't kiss, but like oh man, no, they're just talking to each other.
Yes,
just having a conversation.
Part of that is probably the chemistry of the actors, but I think mostly it's that they are supposed to be playing much older people.
Sure,
that's a huge part of it.
Definitely. I think if this movie was hot, and I'm into, because I don't know how to approach Superman as an action movie. I think Superman is much better as a romantic lead. You know,
agreed. This is we'll get into this with Man of Steel, but this is that failing of that movie for me is the writing of Lois Lane.
Right.
It's like I want my Superman movie to basically be a rom-com.
Yes.
With some action adventure in it. Like that is, I think
that's the only way it works. I don't think it's I don't think Superman as an action movie works. It's considering
what you want is basically the Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
Yes.
Spider-Man 2, which is like rom-com, a lot of rom-com stuff in there.
God, I love that movie.
It's great.
And you're right. It's so we're talking about the fidelity to the Donner movie. I did think about like how Spider-Man has that, but also I guess has more of it, does it, but like builds off of it, does something else, while also still like clearly the Donner film is on the fucking vision board.
Right.
This is just it's like that other movie. Remember that other movie?
But we took out most of the good stuff.
Right. Let's see. Is there anything we want to go over broadly, or should we just get into the fucking plot?
I think let's get into it, and we'll hit this stuff on the way.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so I'm just reading directly from the Wikipedia as we do. Superman has been missing for 5 years since traveling to the location where astronomers believed they had discovered the remains of Krypton. There's a deleted scene here where Cal Penn's character, it's maybe not even a deleted scene. I don't even know if this made it to shooting, but Cal Penn's character, who is mostly silent, was supposed to have a much bigger role as a corrupted Daily Planet reporter who I believe had like put fake information about this discovery of Krypton in the Daily Planet as part of Lex Luthor's plan to get Superman away, to go looking for. I don't know if that's better or worse.
It's worse, because it calls attention to it. Because you don't want to call attention to this because it makes no fucking sense.
Right.
Scientists think they discovered Krypton. Let's unpack that.
It blew up.
Even if it didn't, how do they know what planet is Krypton?
Yeah, right.
Based on what? Based on what information do they think
Superman's interview that one time.
What is it? There's, how many planets there are?
Yeah, right.
Also, when things are that far away, could be gone.
Yeah, right.
Could have blown up, and we're still seeing it because the light hasn't reached us. Those kinds of things. It's just like, let's not draw attention to this because it doesn't make any fucking sense. And also, if it was planted in the Daily Planet and Superman's just like, oh, there's a headline, let me go off for 5 years.
Yeah, right.
Like, he's a real moron.
I'm getting... And there you see a video ad started playing in my other window, and I got very confused. But it's fine.
Phantom Zone, gosh.
Phantom Zone, man. Okay, so during his absence, Superman's nemesis Lex Luthor was released. Mr. Luthor was released from prison and married a rich widow to obtain her fortune upon her death. I do think this is kind of fun.
It is, to me, weird to start the movie off here. Like, they start with Lex Luthor. It's the beginning of the movie is this mansion and this old lady and Lex Luthor.
Right. So basically what happens here is there's this old lady. She's explaining how Lex Luthor has been a wonderful husband to her. She's going to sign everything over to him. She dies before she can sign it. Lex takes her hand and just scribbles the scene. I like it. While her family's outside, like, he doesn't love you, Gertrude.
Right. This is more of a Gene Hackman.
Yes.
Moment. Let's have this conversation. Kevin Spacey, again, like I said, great actor. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
He was at the time he was considered one of our great actors,
right.
And he's very talented, obviously. But here, and this might not be his fault, he can't seem to decide if he wants Lex Luthor to be silly or like menacing.
We're clearly trying. It's Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor is a joke, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And we're clearly trying to do more, add a sinister thing to it. But you're right, it is inconsistent.
Well, yeah, they're trying to split the difference. I mean, it's basically this whole project in a nutshell, where
right.
we want to do Donner, but we don't want to do it.
Is there an element where it's supposed to be, is the intention here, oh, he's silly, but he has this menacing side?
Yeah.
That comes out.
Maybe it's like he's pissed because he was in prison for a few years or whatever. I don't know, but I think it can work. You can have characters be funny and menacing, like Jack Nicholson's Joker.
Yeah, right. Who's the clown guy?
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't love him in this movie. It's not his fault, but there's no meat on the bone with Lex Luthor.
Right.
Unlike Smallville, and there's so much meat. Delicious Rosenbaum meat. Delicious Rosenbaum meat.
Gertrude here, the old widow, or the old billionaire woman.
Start talking about Gertrude from Smallville.
No.
God, my favorite storyline.
Gertrude from Superman Returns is played by, I don't have her name on me. She played Lois Lane in some of the old film serials.
Oh, that's cool.
That's fun.
Yeah.
So Superman, having failed in his quest to find surviving Kryptonians, returns to Earth. As there's a scene here, Martha Kent at her at the Smallville house. Suddenly, Clark comes in like a fucking asteroid. I like this scene a bit.
Yeah, I do too. But I like that before the thing crashes. Is that a booty call leaving her house?
Great
There's
question.
Like an old man in a pickup, and she's like, "See you later, Larry," or whatever his name is.
I think it was a friendly Smallville friend coming by, or it was Lionel Luthor finally making his move. I like this bit. And then I like Clark at the farm. I'm always a sucker for Clark staring at cornfields. A couple of movies have them. Clark at the farm does it for me every time. It's not good still, but
no, but anytime they have it's like magic hour in this movie, it looks pretty good.
That's really where I give this movie lots of probably undeserved points. There's like some like these blues and orange hues together, and every time I'm like, ooh, reminds me of like warm summer nights, you know, and like early summer and
atmospheric.
Yeah. Right. Every time I'm like, okay, so Superman Returns, you can stay. There's also like a very like soft lighting over this movie that I do like. I don't know who shot this movie, but I frequently like it. Like the look of it.
I like parts. I don't love the like green color palette that's going on.
Sure. What do you think about the set design overall? What do you think about the look of, which does not look like Metropolis from Superman 1 and 2?
I was going to mention that. It's interesting because it's not Donner's at all, because Donner was just New York City.
It looks like 70s. The animated series, that little bit like Art Deco.
Yes, very Art Deco.
Sort of more stylized. I don't mind it.
I don't mind it. I think it's more the pace, but it just feels very glacially paced, and I think the Art Deco maybe contributes to that a little bit, but...
Interesting.
Like if it had more life, then I would love the Art Deco.
Sure.
Like the newsroom is like not bustling at all in this movie.
That's true. I guess, I do like Metropolis as portrayed as a bustling retro future.
Yeah.
Like the 50s idea of a sci-fi city. That's basically the animated series, and I really like that. As sort of a opposite side of the coin, Gotham.
Right, which was like 20s like gangster.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically, the animated series is the perfect version of these characters, and it's stupid.
Really, we
keep
should
trying
be
other
covering
things.
those shows. Yeah.
Seriously, they're both really good. Okay, so as Clark Kent, he resumes his job at the Daily Planet in Metropolis. We meet Jimmy Olsen, who looks age appropriate for the first time in a while.
But oddly, he's the same age as Lois and Superman. So.
Right. Sean Ashmore was offered this role, which is funny considering.
But he was like, "I'm not leaving X-Men. Like, I wouldn't leave X-Men either. I wouldn't quit Iceman to go be, Jimmy Olsen."
Right. Marsden did.
He did.
Okay.
He jumped. Well, they kill him off in X3 pretty quick.
Right. Though that was for this. That was to do this.
Yeah.
So he subsequently learns that Lois Lane is now engaged to Perry White's nephew Richard, with whom she has a 5-year-old son named Jason, and has won the Pulitzer Prize for her article "Why the World Doesn't Need Superman." That the whole "why the world does or doesn't need Superman" thing throughout this felt real cheeseball to me this time around, especially like. The movie doesn't explore this much.
No, and that in general, I find I really like the concept of a character being gone, disappearing for 5 years and coming back. I think that is right for a lot of drama, but I don't think they take advantage of it in this movie very much.
No, I don't think so at all.
And that's another thing that I don't like. I'm going to say some things I do like, I promise, about this movie, but
I like a couple things, not many.
I don't like Superman movies or stories where Lois and Clark don't have a relationship.
Yes, agreed.
I'm not talking romantic, but they have to have, like in this movie, she's like, "Oh yeah, Clark, I forgot about you, whatever you are." Like she barely gives him the time of day.
Right.
I don't like that.
Agreed.
Now, I know Donner Superman, it wasn't like a huge relationship, but they were friends. They were buddies.
Yes.
She was just a little airheaded, so it wasn't like she was ignoring him or something. She was just like focused on whatever.
Right. It's great in the fucking Donner movie. It's great in the Donner movie.
It is, and I even prefer more. I prefer the Smallville or the Lois and Clark, where it's like they kind of have a weird romantic thing going on, like a friend romantic thing, and then also there's Superman, so it's like Clark's competing with himself. Give me that. That is what I want.
So fun. It's so fun.
But here you have the scenes with Clark and Lois. There's no anything other than just him longing.
It's right. It's Clark is just a guy.
It's
Clark's
totally
just a
lifeless. Guy totally lifeless.
Who's also been gone for 5 years.
Also, I feel like she's kind of not nice to him.
Right.
Really.
Right.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, Luther travels to the Fortress of Solitude and steals Kryptonian crystals, which he uses for an experiment that causes a power outage on the East Coast. At the Fortress of Solitude, we also get CGI Marlon Brando.
It's not CGI. This is footage from the original movie.
Still digitally, all the audio is, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
There's at least some still special features where they are manipulating his mouth a little bit.
Oh, interesting.
Digital.
Okay.
It's Bryan Singer has said they had tons of footage of Marlon Brando. A lot of him like reciting poems or like completely just losing track of his lines.
Just ripping. Yeah. The Fortress of Solitude. Krypton.
I'm sure Brando would fucking love that he's in this movie, and that's not at all.
Yeah, he doesn't have any history of really being upset about that kind of thing. Or...
Yeah, no, I'm sure he's in hell loving this. Just real stoked. The power loss. We also on Lex Luthor's crew. We also meet Parker Posey's character, who is sort of the new Miss Tessmacher.
I was going to say
part of this. No notes.
Yes, so she's great. Parker Posey always great. Frequently the best part of bad movies. I don't understand why they didn't just make her Miss Tessmacher.
I also don't know why either. Why?
Everything else we're like, this is kind of a sequel to the last one, to 1 and 2, kind of.
Right. 1 more than 2, but
yes.
Yeah.
But they bone in 2.
They do bone in 2.
And they don't bone in 1. And then he makes her forget it with a morally questionable memory kiss.
Which, boy howdy, we have questions about. Hey, what went down? What went down? Because okay, so the power loss interferes with the flight test of a space shuttle to be launched into space from its piggyback mounting on an airliner occupied by Lois Lane, who is covering the shuttle story. Clark flies into action as Superman and stops the plane from crashing onto a baseball stadium.
Okay, question. Go ahead.
I have a positive thing to say. If you have a question,
okay. I have a little nitpicky logic.
Yeah. Go for it.
Clark is in the bar with Jimmy. He's watching on TV as this crisis is happening, and then he
also the bartender in that scene has played Jimmy Olsen in the past, I believe, also
cute.
in serials.
That's fun.
Yeah,
I do like. There's a fun joke in there where Jimmy's like, talks about how Lex Luthor got off because Superman wasn't there to attend as a witness in his trial, and he's like, how much do you think that pisses off Superman? And Superman's like, a lot. Yeah. But they're watching it on TV, and then there's a moment where Clark is like torn. He's like, should I go back into action as Superman?
Right.
Or not? Which I didn't realize was ever a question. I didn't realize he was like, do I really want to do
the thing?
Right. That was my big question. Why is he wearing the suit underneath if he wasn't preparing to do this?
I'm not gonna, I swear to God, I'm not gonna do it. He says as he buttons his shirt in the mirror. I'm not gonna do it. I'm putting it on, but I'm not gonna fucking do it.
But that's how they stage that scene, that he's torn, but they don't set that up at all or explore that at all.
Right.
So it's not like he's like, oh, I'm coming out of retirement. Because it feels like we've just been waiting around for 30 minutes of him just not helping.
Like, you want to be fucking Superman, man? That's the...
Yeah. It's in the title of the movie.
So we go into this plane rescue sequence, which of course mirrors the helicopter scene from the Donner movie to a fault. But what I do think it's kind of fun here, where Superman isn't just like lifting I like that he has to kind of work it out. Like he rips the wings off of the plane.
Yes. No,
so, I think it's it's not like quite an exciting scene, but I think that's inventive. I
think it takes too long to get going.
Yeah.
But when this plane is crashing and he's doing that stuff, particularly when it like that shot of the stadium is fantastic.
And there's a yes, that's probably the best shot in the whole movie.
Yes.
The stadium, boom, ball gets hit, handheld sweep up to just the plane, Superman like at the nose of the plane.
Fantastic shot. And that's cool visuals of Superman like holding the plane up. That's great.
This was cool. It was that looked money in 2006.
Yeah,
and still looks good now. Looks good.
I still think that part looks really good.
It's not a very exciting sequence, I think, but it's good.
That's the reason that Superman movies should not be action movies and should be rom-coms, is because there's very little tension.
He can do it. He's gonna do
the
it.
thing. Yeah, he's gonna do the thing.
I don't think this is how they kill Lois Lane, by just a plane fucking
Right, yeah.
dive bombing into a baseball stadium. I'm not saying there's not more to action than that. It's not always about like being worried someone's gonna die, but like
No.
this is just empty spectacle. But it's good. It's well done.
Yeah.
And then and then Superman does, the whole, hey, still the safest way to fly, and then pieces the fuck out.
He's like,
Can you get
hey,
the
Lois.
fucking... It's reminiscent. Remember when he just fucking left the fucking boat in Times Square? Like, you fucking asshole.
Yeah, can you lift this back to the airport?
Can you... the airport, fucking the ocean, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
Get everybody off and then get it out of this fucking baseball stadium. Fuck you. Gotta go.
He's thinking about the economy. He's like, a lot of jobs will be made getting this plane out of here.
Very smart. Superman's always thinking in that way. I don't remember if we talked about it in one of the Superman episodes, but Christopher Reeve at one point was asked, it might have been a football game or something, was asked, dressed as Superman, to like come out, be brought out into the middle of the field as Superman. And he declined because he said, the only thing for me to do, the Superman thing, is to then fly away out of the stadium, which I, Christopher Reeve, cannot do. So then there will just be the sad image of me being driven away.
That's smart. That's very smart.
Right? That's Reeve. Thinking correctly.
Yeah. That's great. So after that, we get, I'm sure the wiki will talk about it. We get a scene of we're in the Daily Planet and Perry White's like, we got to want to know about Superman, everything about him. Is he still into truth, justice, all that stuff?
Yeah.
Instead of saying the American way.
Yes.
The truth, justice, and the American way. And I remember at the time I was working at Blockbuster and one of my coworkers, very nice man, I think a year older than me, conservative guy, did not appreciate that they didn't say American way, instead said all that stuff. He thought it was like a liberal jab.
Yeah. Which is so funny because it's now been properly removed.
Yeah.
I forget what it is now, but like, no, it's been officially removed from Superman's lexicon.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, no. I'm going to Google it right now. Truth, justice, American way, new version. New version, Superman instead. Truth, justice, and a better tomorrow.
Great.
Is what he says now. And I'm into it.
Truth, justice, and all that stuff.
And all that stuff.
Other countries are cool too.
Yeah. Canada's fine, and I'm proud to be a Canadian. That's real.
That's real.
It's real.
I know. We talked about it.
Yeah. So the world rejoices at Superman's return, but he has difficulty coping with the fact that those he once was close to have moved on from him. With Superman distracted by an out-of-control vehicle, a diversion involving Luthor's henchwoman Kitty Kowalski, Luthor steals kryptonite from the Metropolitan Museum of Natural History. Zach, your hands are up.
We're skipping over some stuff.
Yeah, this is a pretty broad summary.
First of all, Lois Lane's like, hey, I don't care about Superman being back. Obviously, she does. But she's like, I want to cover this blackout, this mysterious blackout. And Perry White says
she,
no.
Obviously. I know she's supposed to. I don't know if that comes across in the performance. I know on the page she does.
Okay,
I don't know about the screen.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's silly that Perry White wouldn't have one reporter looking into the blackout.
Yeah, right. No, like, all of Superman stuff.
You got a lot of pages of the newspaper to fill, man. Yeah. And it's not like the blackout is separate from Superman. It was the thing he was reacting to. It's part of the story.
Right.
I just love that Superman is gone for 5 years and so is Clark, and they both get back at the same time. I mean, it's just, come on. These are journalists, Brian.
Yeah, the 6 foot, the fucking 6'2" linebacker.
Yeah, 6'4". Yeah.
Yeah.
They do make a reference to that
also,
later. That is kind of funny, but
I gotta say, Brendan Routh is in a much he's more slender, I think, than he would be if they made this movie in 2022. I mean, 2023.
Yes. I wonder what that is, because he is pretty jacked too. When
he's in better shape than I will ever be period.
For whatever reason, he does. Maybe he's he's just long, like he's lengthy.
Sure.
Because he does look a little stringier than other people who have played him, but he's not. He's ripped in this movie. He's
sure. Okay, Perry then assigned. Oh, sorry. We were skipping over Luther in the museum. God, we love Luther fucking stealing shit from a museum. I don't love it. These movies love it. They do it in 4 too.
Oh yeah, this is the problem. Okay, before that scene with the car and the stealing museum, we get the random scene of Clark fighting the guy with the machine gun and the bullets.
Oh right, that was all over the marketing.
Yes, where a guy shoots him in the eye or whatever.
Right.
Which is cool, I guess, but it has nothing to do with the plot. Like, we couldn't have had a scene with a guy shooting at him, but be part of the narrative.
Right. I think they're going back to that, and it's one of the best bits of the Donner movie. That he does the helicopter save, and then there's just a couple of minutes of him doing Superman stuff. But that once again is in a movie where that is essentially the biopic of Superman.
Well, and you could do that here in that movie. It's like a montage of that stuff. Whereas this is one scene where he fights a guy at a bank, and then the car rescue, which is part of the museum robbery.
Right. I guess, that's part of, I think, don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of things that contribute to this. But maybe why part of the pacing feels so sluggish is, once again, the romantic scenes have no chemistry and the action scenes aren't exciting.
Right.
So, it's just a fucking flat line. Nothing gets my heart moving at any point. And
the lack of excitement on pacing gets accentuated when the action has nothing to do with the narrative.
Right.
It's completely removed from the main plot line.
Which I don't think that's the sole issue here. No, I think but I think it's exacerbating a larger problem. So Perry then assigns Lois to the Superman catches Parker Posey's car. It's basically just the cover of Action Comics #1. Fine.
Smallville did it.
Yeah, right. Perry then assigns Lois to interview Superman while Clark investigates the blackout. Lois and Jason inadvertently board Luthor's yacht and are captured after Lois decides to hold interest in the blackout story, which she connects to Luthor's experiment.
We're already there, huh?
I guess so.
Okay, we have so much.
Okay, yeah, it's worth noting. So everything I've read so far, that took me 3 viewings to get through.
Well, that's an hour and a half.
Yeah.
All the things you've read so far.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and haven't seen this movie, this is what we're dealing with here. Of that is so much movie so far.
Yeah.
Not so much runtime, not movie.
I want to just quickly talk about the parallel that they were attempting with the Batman properties and the Superman properties.
I definitely viewed this at the time as a Batman Begins companion. This was all leading up to a crossover.
I believe that was the intent, because this is pre The Dark Knight. So this is pre Nolan having all the power.
Right. I assume this was an intent on the Warner Brothers side. I don't think this was Bryan Singer's intention. I don't think this was Chris Nolan's intention.
That's what I'm saying. Is
yeah.
After Dark Knight, it was we got to do whatever Nolan wants.
Right.
But before then, it was we can do a couple Nolans, a couple Singers, and then we'll have a meet in a movie. I firmly believe that was the intention. It also, the names kind of mirrored, because it was Batman Begins, Superman Returns, and then The Dark Knight, and then, believe it or not, the second Singer movie was announced as The Man of Steel.
Right. And they were I remember that and being very excited about that. Right. Yeah, they were supposed to be companions.
Yeah. So it's interesting to think about what could have been. After The Dark Knight, I don't think there was any chance of that happening.
It seems less the stylization and production design of this movie. It doesn't seem that ridiculous from Batman Begins. Batman Begins has a little bit more of a stylized production design than The Dark Knight, where Gotham just becomes Chicago.
Gotham. Yeah,
yes.
A lot more CGI.
Right. Later, it's just Chicago.
Yes. Yeah, I guess, like I said, after The Dark Knight, I don't think there was any chance of a crossover.
Right. I think I was still waiting for it. I get, and we'll talk about it eventually when we inevitably get to Batman movies. But I think at the time I was still viewing these movies as a new attempt at the definitive versions of these characters.
Yep.
So Batman famously teams up with Superman many times, so that will inevitably happen to Christian Bale's like Batman, because that's part of the thing. It didn't occur to me, it didn't seem like a possibility that they could do what they did in the next one, which was end it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think I thought that that's what this was going to be, but then it wasn't. Superman Returns is not like a let's do a definitive Superman. It's like, oh, we're just doing a sequel to the Donner movies.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, that was what was going on then. I remember a lot of Photoshop.
We are 2 years away from Iron Man. To be clear.
A lot of photoshopped pictures of Brandon Routh and Christian Bale together.
Yes.
As Batman and Superman.
Yes. And I was very excited by them.
Okay, let's talk about a few things before we get here. First of all, the boat set is amazing.
Yes.
In this movie, the yacht, the interior of the yacht, it's pretty great set.
Pretty great. Pretty great.
To say that. Okay. we skipped over the whole scene where Superman takes Lois for a little ride.
God, that's how fucking sexless and forgettable it is. In what should be the set. This should be the set piece of this movie, you know? And it sucks. It's sexless and sucks.
My favorite part is at the end of the flying around. They're up, almost in space. They fly around. He flies by her house. And I'm like, what a fun way to say that I creepily watch you sometimes.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Oh, is that you? Gotcha. Oh, right. That is a weird element of this fucking movie that I definitely thought was romantic at the time and ain't. Red flag.
Smallville did the same thing. He's watching with the telescope.
Superman uses his X-ray vision just to look inside of her house and listen to their conversations and then look at her son. Looks through the walls of her home to look at her son.
This house that they're in is like a $30 million home, like on the waterfront. They have a dock, a private dock.
In newspapers.
Yeah, I'm not sure though that it costs more than Lois Lane's apartment in the Donner movie.
Yeah, right. Seriously.
Which is like the presidential suite.
Yeah, right. It's we get James Marsters is not very well represented in the wiki here. I like him generally. I don't think I think there's an interesting thing here, right? On paper, there's an interesting dynamic here of Lois Lane is with, not married to, but with, and has a son with a perfectly nice guy. And of course she wants to smooch Superman, Right.
It's
this guy's nightmare. This guy's a nightmare. And he's a good dude and he's good for her.
Yep.
And I think that is an interesting dynamic that is not explored here in any interesting way.
It's amazing to me that James Marsden left playing Cyclops.
Right.
Like one of the key X-Men.
Right.
To come play this cuckold.
Yeah. Right. It's a nothing. He's barely even mentioned in the wiki. Once again, we're about an hour and a half into this movie. Cyclops would be in the wiki.
For sure.
Cyclops is already mentioned in the fucking X-Men 3 wiki by this point.
How do you feel about the sort of evil Superman colors of his suit?
I don't hate them. I don't love them. I think
I want a vibrant red.
I'm with you. I see what happened here. I remember 2006. I know what happened here, you know? Like, I was there. That said, you know what I gotta say? He's got shorts in this. How do you feel Superman shorts, no shorts?
Wait, you mean instead of a thong?
It's Superman and Lois. He doesn't have the shorts. He just has a red belt.
Oh, that's what you're saying. Okay, yeah. So he has them in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, they took
them
out.
I think I like the shorts. I know
do
they
too.
look stupid.
They took it out for Man of Steel too.
Right.
He doesn't have them.
I like the shorts. I think the shorts.
They're part of it.
They're part of it. Why are we afraid of the shorts? Give them the shorts. It's fine. Why are we suddenly like making the fucking Superman suit make sense?
Right. Exactly. These things are for children.
It's when you take the shorts out, the suit doesn't like look cool.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it's not a better look.
It didn't fix anything. You just made a change that fixed nothing. Look, he doesn't suddenly look like Neo in the Matrix now.
Like if your wife was like, "Hey, I want you to wear this tonight," and put out like a one-piece skin tight suit with it was like blue with red shorts, and you're like, "No, I don't want to wear that." If she was like, "Fine, we can take the shorts off," you wouldn't be like, "Okay, fine, I'll wear it."
The shorts were really the linchpin here.
I'll wear it. Yeah, I'll wear it. But that's fine.
I do love the idea of just, I want you to wear it. I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to wear that.
I don't want to. No. Just.
I love this world where your wife dresses you.
Yeah. No, I don't want to. Yeah. You know, my wife lays out my clothes for me every single morning, and then I look at it, I go, no.
I was thinking like a special occasion. She's like, I want you to look good tonight, so I want you to wear this.
I thought you meant in a sexy context.
Oh, Brian, I don't know if there's anything less sexy than either of us wearing a Superman costume.
Only one way to find out, brother.
Oh. I've been Clark Kent for Halloween like 10 times, but never Superman. Because I don't,
classic,
you know, it's an easy one to throw together.
Classic tall guy. I'm gonna participate with this I'm gonna participate with a Halloween costume, but I still want to look handsome.
Exactly. Yes. Once I realized that was on the table, I did it for like 10 years straight.
Yeah, right. It's great. It's great.
But then it became like something of a punchline, and I was like, all right, I got to find something else.
Yeah, right. But like, man, there's a reason. It works.
Yeah. It's cheap.
Looks good. It's cheap. You look, you still get to go to the party and like look handsome.
Yep. Yeah.
The glasses, everybody likes the glass. It's a good look.
It's
that
like
got
the
taken away.
equivalent of like the sexy nurse or
right.
sexy cat or something.
I want justice for the Clark Kent becoming Superman costume. I don't know why we got to keep jumping through hoops on costumes here.
Justice for.
I don't know why we're not. I don't know why we're not allowed a couple standbys here. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I was invited to a Halloween party like while I was at work this year, and I like didn't bring a costume, and I live far away from work. So when I was thinking about going, I was like, "What can I do?" So we have name tags, like those little sticky, like "Hello, my name is," and I just wrote Freddy Krueger. That's a real Jim Halpert.
Yes. Now you have an issue though. If you ever wear the Clark Kent Halloween costume ever again, you are contractually obligated. I don't know where this contract is, but you signed one to talk about your Smallville podcast anytime.
Oh,
any girl you're
no
talking to, just be like,
no.
"Oh yeah, I actually have a podcast." Me and my other adult male friends talk about a teen show.
Don't worry, we know it's ridiculous. We're self-aware.
That makes it. We have dozens of listeners.
Oh,
Baker's dozens.
Okay, I'm just going through my notes here. Clark doesn't check in on the fortress when he first gets back. He waits till an hour and a half.
He comes later.
Yeah, I would check in. Make sure everything's still in order.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
My ice palace. Oh. He's trying to he didn't clean up, so he's like, I don't even want to fucking look at that yet. Where you left the oven on.
I think we're caught up to the boat on my note.
Great. Okay, so Lex reveals to them that his grand scheme of using one of the stolen kryptonite crystals, which he has combined with kryptonite to grow a new continental landmass in the northern Atlantic Ocean that will supplant the continental United States and kill millions of innocent people. Zach, my main question here is, what?
I also like in this scene, Kitty is asking him about the plan, and he's like, it's simple physics. Two spaces cannot occupy the same space at the same time. And I'm like, I don't think that would put the other space under the water, though.
What?
Right. You think no one wants to live on the barren nothing.
Yeah, have you seen the rock you grew? It sucks. Superman has an ice palace in the Arctic. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It looks like it sucks.
It looks really cold.
Yeah.
And it's
just Krypton. We've seen Krypton in a couple of movies. It looks like it sucks.
Yeah. Although he does have a nice love bed there that he banged Lois Lane in. Yeah, nice little spot.
That said, if it was that great, would he have needed to memory kiss her? Huh?
That's why he did it, because the sex was really bad.
So fucking him, yeah.
I want another shot at this.
Yeah. So it's not that I'm mad at a fucking stupid Lex Luthor plan, because this is certainly I'm gonna fucking make California fall off the continental U.S. It's not a better plan than the original, but that tonally made sense with its comic booky funny bookness.
Exactly, that made more sense in that movie.
Right. This is. I would rather just not have this.
That Lex Luthor was a goofball. Nothing. He was a con man.
Right. This, all of everything here should have just been the fucking Lois Lane Clark tension.
Yes.
I say tension that was supposed to exist that is not present on screen in this fucking movie. So seeing Jason seemingly have a slight reaction to kryptonite, Luthor asks who's Jason's father really is. I do like this scene.
Yes,
I like Kevin Spacey in this scene.
Yes, he's being menacing.
Yes, I think it works.
I do too, because he gets right up in her face and is it's good. It's a good scene.
Yes. Lois asserts that the father is Richard, James Marston. The crystal begins to create Luthor's new landmass, while Lois attempts to escape, but is attacked by a henchman. I actually think this scene is reasonably good, too.
Yes, but first of all, he doesn't just take her word when she's like, it's not Superman's son. He takes the kryptonite and touches the boy's face with it. Very good little touch, little menacing scene.
Good.
And then
This henchman's
the following scene with the henchman, I like when the boy is playing Heart and Soul and he goes over and starts playing with them. That's good.
I don't know if it was smart to be obscured enough by have your view obscured enough by the piano for Lois Lane to send a fax message to the Daily Planet.
Brian, it's pretty boring being a henchman.
Yeah.
A lot of standing around.
This is my one trick.
Sometimes you get a chance to play a little Heart and Soul. You got to take it.
Yeah. I'll also say here, I don't have a good ear for music at all. Most of my understandings of pop music mostly are in their cultural context. But if you ask me, like, is this good or not? I don't fucking know. You mentioned not liking the score, anything that was not John Williams.
So I said that about an hour in, and I did feel that way at the time. Anything that's not derivative of John Williams, I wasn't a fan of at the beginning because it was all just generic nothing.
Got it.
But as the movie
there's
went
a bit on the yacht where they shoot the crystal from the thing, and I was like, oh, I like this.
Yeah, I thought the music got better as it went. I did like the kind of choral stuff with Lois and Clark was pretty good. So I recant that, but it's no John Williams.
No. Who is?
Yeah, that's not fair. That's not fair to say.
Brian,
I
mean, no John Williams, no Junkie XL.
Yeah. That guy's gonna come on this podcast and just chew us out. Would that be a great episode of the show? Yeah, anytime.
Come on. Junkie XL. So you guys keep hitting your death.
Yeah.
Leave us alone, Junkie XL.
Yeah, talk about terrible sound. You don't even have season 1 up because it sounded so fucking terrible. Go score another Zack Snyder movie.
Yeah. Jason throws a piano at the henchman, killing him and confirming that Superman is the father. I remember people. So yes, Jason
That's not exactly a pregnancy test. It doesn't 100% confirm it.
Certainly not.
Maybe this is a Smallville meteor rock thing. Who knows?
I do remember people like not loving this. The movie theater I worked at, I'm like, didn't love the idea that Superman had a kid. I feel like this is now just a pretty common storyline. I think Superman's kid has entered the canon of Superman stories.
Right, and I don't think at the time it wasn't though. Right, it wasn't a element of I
think in the comics now, his teen son is a major character. Superman and Lois is a big hit on the CW. Strongly features 2 kids. I think Father Superman is way more and it's funny how that happens. I think
all the money, baby.
I think in the same way of like myth, right? This is so douchey, but like same way like Norse myths and everything. We're just orally told stories, and some got told often enough to be added to the canon. Yeah. It's interesting to watch that happen live.
That's why when people complain that it's not faithful to the comics, it's like the dumbest thing you can say.
It's just an averaging of common stories.
Like, if you watch a movie about Sherlock Holmes, do people say like, "Oh, it's not faithful to Conan Doyle"?
Yeah, right.
I don't think so.
Do they? I don't know. I do remember people thinking the BBC show with Benedict Cumberbatch. People think, oh, that was a more accurate. No, it wasn't though.
No,
it was a new interpretation of stuff that, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was a fresh.
In most
innovation of like haven't thought of Sherlock that way.
Right. In most interpretations of Sherlock nowadays, he's kind of a dick.
Right.
And there's a lot more tension between him and Watson. And if you ever read the old stories, he's a little bit dickish in just that he's kind of a savant, but he's not like, it's not like him and Watson are arguing or bickering constantly in the stories.
Right.
And that's now canon, pretty much.
Right. So meanwhile, Superman is attempting to minimize the destruction of Metropolis caused by the new landmass growth when Richard arrives in a seaplane to rescue Lois and Jason. Not that I think the scene is particularly exciting or anything, but I do like a sequence of Superman I think your best Superman actions, him going like mano a mano punching a guy isn't very interesting, but him having to fly around the city and like put out small fires, I think that's fun.
Yes, agreed.
Fun DNA for a Superman sequence. As is, I think, having to pick things, because what was it, he's flying out to the yacht, but then this fissure is breaking, like I think that's where tension comes in a Superman action sequence, is him having to choose things. That doesn't get used very often. Meanwhile,
it's a lot more interesting than watching him and Zod punch each other into buildings for 30 minutes.
I can't wait till we get to that.
Which we will talk about, sadly, very soon. You know what? I actually think that movie is probably better than this one, and
I think I'm worried that I might think that as well.
It's not rock bottom for us on this this series of Phantom Zone podcasts. Luckily, rock bottom is very far off for us.
Right. I guess we can talk about the larger plan here. I think here in the Phantom Zone, where we have just infinity DVDs, or not infinity, a small selection of DVDs in infinity time, we are going to complete the theatrical Superman films to the next one, Man of Steel. Maybe Supergirl at some point. Should we do We skipped Supergirl. We don't have to watch Supergirl.
I think after we're done with this, then maybe we start.
Great. When we're desperate for other content.
Yeah, because then we'll have to watch Catwoman. You know what I mean? Then it's like
right. / Joker. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do Man of Steel, and then once we hit the end of that, we are going to go back and do all of the theatrically released Batman movies. Which I think Zach and I are both very excited to tackle because we have lots of things to say. And then once we get to, I don't know. I guess we could do up to the most recent Batman movie.
I think let's do it. Let's do it chronological. So we'll go up to The Dark Knight Rises, and then jump over to the rock bottom. Rock
fucking bottom.
Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Brian, we have a long time to decide, but are we going to watch the extended cut of that fucking thing?
I mean, so part of me thinks if we're going to do it, let's fucking do it.
Let's go big.
But
I don't want anyone being like, yeah, but they didn't watch the extended one.
Right. And let's be real.
It doesn't make a fucking difference. Not one fucking difference.
It's I'm not looking forward to that. I'm not looking forward to inevitably having to do Justice League.
We're doing the Whedon Justice League.
We are doing
we
have to. I can't watch that 4-hour piece of shit again. It's 4 fucking hours, and everyone who was like, it was pretty good. I want you to remember we were in the middle of a fucking pandemic and we were all crazy.
Yeah, yes.
Because it's not pretty good. It's terrible. And if you had to go to a movie theater to see that fucking movie, you would have rioted.
Or if you spent money on it.
Seriously. It was the middle of the pandemic and it was a novelty, and that was the only reason you thought it was okay.
Yes.
I did watch the whole fucking thing, which I was not expecting to do.
I mean, you had to get to the really good end credit sequence with the post-apocalyptic Batman and Joker.
What?
And
that's not how movies work.
But it's not even. It's teasing a movie that we know we're never going
to. They shot this. They went back and they shot this. Fuck.
Oh.
Okay. Superman soon arrives to help and then flies off to find Luthor. Meeting Luthor, Superman discovers the landmass is filled with kryptonite, which weakens him to the point that Luthor and his henchmen are able to brutalize and torture him. I definitely, when I saw this in theaters, thought this was a moving scene. Did not affect me in the same way this time.
No, but it is pretty brutal because they have Superman screaming out in pain.
Yes.
Which is kind of shocking to see from the character Superman. It reminiscent, not as effective, clearly, but reminiscent of when Batman is getting his ass handed to him by Bane in The Dark Knight Rises.
Definitely.
I remember seeing that in the theater, and I'll talk about this when we do the recap, but just being suddenly so aware that this is just a silly man in a suit.
Yeah.
Getting his ass handed.
Yeah. Right.
Like, leave that poor man in that suit.
Leave him alone. So Superman is stabbed by Luthor with a shard of kryptonite before he falls into the ocean and is left to drown. I do, in a vacuum, I do like Lex Luthor stabbing Superman with kryptonite going, now fly.
Yeah.
Him.
But that should have been it. But he does that, and then he says, so long, Superman, afterwards. It's like, just end it on the good note.
Yeah, right.
Now fly. Great.
I can see Rosenbaum doing that.
The super on the nose moment where Lex Luthor is talking about, the kryptonite takes on the traits of whatever.
Right.
He said, kind of like the son inheriting the traits of his father. Yep. Great. That is the theme.
Yep. So Lois makes Richard turn back around to rescue Superman, whereupon she removes the kryptonite from his back. I would say, though, and I understand you got to do what you got. I think Superman would agree also, get your child out of danger.
Yep.
Fly back and then come back around for Superman.
Also,
I think Superman would want that.
I think it's in an earlier scene at the Daily Planet, but she's like explaining to him what kryptonite is, Richard. Yeah. Radioactive pieces of his homework. Was he asleep when Superman first came on the scene?
Yeah, he's like, I don't know. I've heard the name before, but
Superman. Is that a rapper?
Superman, after regaining his strength from the sun, lifts the landmass after putting layers of earth between him and the kryptonite. Yes.
This was my biggest problem with the movie when it came out, logic-wise.
Okay.
He's standing on the island. There's no kryptonite in sight, but it's made of kryptonite. So he's weakened. Lex Luthor and his guys beat the shit out of him. He comes back. He picks up the island. He can lift it.
Right.
He can't stand on it without getting his ass kicked. But he can lift this fucker into space.
Do you think there's a version of this that could have fixed that if it was more visibly like, I am in a lot of pain and struggling and giving this everything I absolutely have?
They do that. They do that, especially towards the end. The kryptonite starts breaking through the island.
Right.
It's a lot to lift. It's impressive enough to lift an entire island.
Right.
But
I can't say that bothers me that much. I just think it's not a very exciting set piece.
The visual of him lifting the island is pretty spectacular, though. It
does kind of harken back to, if you want to talk accurate to the comics, most of those original comics. I read a lot of the Golden Age run because my local library has them, and they're very fun to read. Go to your library. It's great. But it's a lot of those stories are just like, look at this heavy thing. He can't lift that heavy thing. He's lifting that heavy thing. Wow. Over and over. Yeah,
where'd he go after Island?
So Luthor and Kitty escape in their helicopter. Kitty, unwilling to let millions of people die, tosses away the crystal that Lex stole from the Fortress of Solitude. Their helicopter runs out of fuel, leaving them stranded on a deserted island. That's a funny little bit. Once again, it's tonally all over the place, but that's out of one of the the Christopher Reeve movies.
Yep.
Superman pushes the landmass into space with the crystals trapped in the landmass, but is weakened by the kryptonite and crashes back to planet Earth. In the now Christ allegories and Superman are come one and one, but just full Jesus pose back to Earth.
Yeah. Ugh. My least favorite part about the Superman mythos.
Yeah. I do like the imagery of people looking up as Superman falls and then pooms into the park. Mm-hmm. I liked it.
The flying stuff is generally quite good in this. I mean, you get
agree.
sonic boom stuff. And I like when he's falling, re-entering the atmosphere like an asteroid, like getting
it's
heat.
good. I noticed a couple of times when Ralph was a digital character, but I don't think I noticed in 2006.
There were a few where it's like they haven't quite mastered that yet.
Right, sure. There's some that's clearly a character with like his face mapped on awkwardly, but I still think generally this movie looks really good.
Speaking of how he looks, it was made. They made a lot of like what's the word? They made a big deal out of the fact that he kind of looks like Reeves at the time. Right. And I think you were the one who's like, he looks like Bizarro more than he looks like.
Was that me? That doesn't sound like me.
He looks more like Bizarro than maybe you were quoting someone else.
Maybe. I think he looks enough like Reeve, and once again in a way that's kind of like that's got to be like a prison for an actor,
right? I think when you're recasting someone, it's actually detrimental to pick someone who looks a lot like the person,
rather than just do something else. And I know that wasn't the point, but I can say because he's not, because it's a little bit like when you hear someone like singing "fuck it," who's a fantastic Whitney Houston at karaoke. Like, you ain't Whitney Houston.
Right,
like you're just drawing that comparison, you know?
Your only option is to put your own spin on it, and he's not given that a chance because they're like, the whole reason we're casting you is because you look like Christopher Reeve, which is not fair to him. I think the guy actually has some charisma. At least he had some later in his career. He was on Chuck. What was show? He's Legends of Tomorrow for a bunch of years.
I believe he's on CW. He's played some superhero, and he played that on Legends of Tomorrow, and has showed up on several of the CW shows as that character. And then he played this Superman again.
Yes,
on CW.
Season 3 of Chuck that he's in at the same time as Kristen Crook is a character on that show.
Yeah. Wow. I don't think he got a fair shake, and I don't know if on his own he would have been like, I think it's a shame. He seems like a nice guy.
Like I said, if he plays Superman just starting out,
right?
Like, he does better,
right?
Yeah.
So let's see here. Doctors remove more kryptonite from Superman's wound, but after it is removed, they cannot penetrate his skin with their surgical tools.
Real Smallville medical stuff going on here.
Yes.
We know the thing that heals this guy is sunlight.
Right.
They put him in this room with the blinds closed.
Right.
Open the blinds. Put him on the roof.
While Superman remains in a coma, Lois and Jason visit him at the hospital, where Lois whispers a secret into Superman's ear and then kisses him. What is the secret,
Brian?
I can't imagine. Superman later awakens to visit Jason, reciting his father Jor-El's last speech to Jason as he sleeps. Here's the thing. That's not Jor-El's speech. Jor-El doesn't say this, I don't think. So this is just a weird thing Superman is saying.
Well, he doesn't say it in the movie, but they have Marlon Brando saying that audio, and they do play it at some point.
I see. Got it. Okay, is that what that is? Got it. Yeah. Got it. My mistake.
It's some random line he just tossed off when he was vamping, and
yeah, right. Lois, well, there's a line there in like, the sun. the son becomes the father. I'm with you. And the father becomes the son. What?
Yeah, I remember at the time.
What?
I don't understand that at all. What do you mean the father becomes the son? Now I kind of get like the father becomes the son, and that he's all he cares about is his son.
Sure.
All his
okay.
hopes and dreams are in his son.
Okay.
Yeah, but it took me until this viewing to understand that.
So I was sitting there like, what?
You would understand because you have a daughter. It's not the same.
Right. Yeah, right. It's not the same.
Fathers don't become daughters. Okay, Brian?
No, of course not. Okay, super. I like here. Lois starts writing another article titled "Why the World Needs Superman." Once again, I don't like this. I don't believe this. I don't believe this through line of the world doesn't need to. Actually, it does.
At this point, we are 2 hours and 20 minutes in, Brian. I just want to get out.
Yeah.
Get us out.
Superman reassures her that he is now back to stay and flies off into low orbit where he gazes down at the world once again. I do like, in theory, on paper, a scene with him and Lois where like, hey, we're not going to be together, but like we share this thing. See you next, I'll see you around. I like it. I wish it was better.
Well, once again, not to hammer this point, this is why they needed older actors. This is that is a storyline for divorced parents.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
That's what this is. Divorced parents saying we're gonna, do what we have to for this kid, and you have a 23-year-old and a 26-year-old.
Yeah, fuck, because none of that. God, you're exactly right. And that's Superman Returns. So I got just some other things I think are interesting here. Jim Caviezel was interested in playing the role.
Well, he already played Jesus, so
yeah, right. There we go, 1-to-1. And I think Chris Pratt auditioned, which would be indicative of things to come.
That's funny though, because that was before he was in like real good shape. Because he got into shape for
I think he was actually in really good shape, and then got into pudgy shape.
Oh,
and then
interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
he's always been a handsome guy.
For sure.
And so Henry Cavill auditioned, which is interesting.
Too young.
Yeah. And then what I think is interesting is Tom Welling has talked about Superman Returns, and I think has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder about it. I don't think Welling was as much like, I want to play Superman in Superman Returns, but more feeling like, how dare you make a Superman movie while I'm the reigning Superman? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yes,
I think that's more it.
And I think Rosenbaum has said as much about, he's like, you don't blame the person who got the role, but would have liked to have auditioned or been
right. Which it's funny, like Welling isn't an option. No, it's not an option.
It's only an option to do a Smallville movie. If you are ending Smallville and doing a Superman movie with him and Rosenbaum, which I would fucking have loved.
Would love.
But that is the only option.
There's no universe where Tom Welling plays it, and I think it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But there's no option where that's a thing. But I think it's interesting. I don't think he loves it. I don't think he was stoked.
Well, he outlasted Brandon Routh by several years in the role.
Yes. I am offline. Hold on. I assume. Oh, I think I'm back. Can you hear me? Okay. We're back. We had a minor technical thing.
The Phantoms were attacking us in the there are Phantoms in the Phantom Zone. That's why it's called the Phantom Zone.
That is the thing. We were in a little tent with flashlights.
Yes.
But they did see the flashlights, and they come and they're like, wooga, 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 and we have to run and then find a new tent. with all of we had to bring all the DVDs with us because we found these in the Phantom Zone. They weren't provided to us.
They tried to steal the safe with Doctor Strange in it, but we got it. Don't worry. We got it out of there.
I have backpack straps, and I just whoop, whoop, and then I run with it.
I also think they started to steal it, and they realized what it was, and they're like, "Okay, we don't need that."
But don't worry, we're safe.
Phantoms don't got no room for Doctor Strange.
No. So this movie made a reasonable amount of money. It didn't flop.
No, it made 400 million worldwide, I think.
Right.
And I just was reading that the studio head was like, well, the next one can't cost quite as much because it didn't do as well as we wanted. We would have wanted 500 million. And Bryan Singer had this defensive quote where he's like, if 400 million is a flop or is not a successful, well, your movie cost 200 million. So
right. It was, that said, it wasn't like a immediate like thumbs down, like we're not doing any more of these. Like I believe like it got pushed ahead. Routh's contract was through like 2009. And through the writer's strike happened, so that kind of put things on ice. Routh was like, I think we're going to go in 2009, like before my contract's up. And then they didn't. I think it was a sizzle.
Yes,
like
they were going to go at one point, but then Singer pushed it back so he could do Valkyrie.
Right.
So,
and then it just sort of
fizzled out. There's a world in which we got another one of these.
Right. Which I don't. There's a some of the ideas for a potential sequel have been floating around, and one of them is Brainiac, who we were talking about earlier. Superman, when he went to Krypton, caught Brainiac's attention, and Brainiac follows Superman back to Earth. And man, that would have been fun for this movie.
Yeah, that sounds like what this movie should have been.
Maybe you should have done that here for this movie.
It's like Superman's gone for 5 years. He comes back. And he brought shitty things with him.
Right.
So it's like the world's like, oh, what the fuck? You were gone, and now you come back with shitty things?
Yes, that would be infinitely more interesting than what we got. Jude Law for this movie. Bryan Singer wanted Jude Law to play Zod. He was the only choice for the role, and when Jude Law turned it down 3 times, Singer just wrote Zod out of the script.
Well, he just would have been like a brief moment, like
I don't know, no idea. I based on what I'm reading, that's it. Like this is like a half sequel to 2, so like I don't know.
I wonder if Zod was prominent, and then when they took him out, they just instead left blank pages, and that's what this movie is.
Yeah, right.
Just like we filmed.
Yeah. Anything else to go over in regards to Superman Returns? My mic might be picking up my cat taking a shit.
In the Phantom Zone, the cat is
in
with us.
the Phantom Zone.
So
oh yeah, my cat also got banished with us.
Yeah, which is nice to have the company, though.
It's good. It was nice. I mean, she was involved in our schemes to blow up Krypton, but
the only thing is there's a lot of sand in the Phantom Zone, so she just shits wherever she wants.
Yeah. It's all the time. She's on her haunches, right? Fucking there she goes. Zach, any other thoughts on Superman Returns?
No, I think it is an interesting failure, I guess is how I would describe it.
I'm just going to close my door real fast.
A lot of talent involved, a lot of money spent. Some of it's on the screen.
Yeah.
Watching this movie today, it is somewhat inexplicable.
Yeah.
Like, if I was someone who grew up in the age of Marvel movies and modern DC stuff, and I watched this, I think I would be flabbergasted.
It's kind of it's real weird.
Yeah, it's a weird movie, which is a compliment. But
right, I am massively curious what I'll think of Man of Steel. Really didn't like it when I saw it.
It's insane that he got to make this movie. this way.
Yes. Would never in a million years happen today.
It must be just that's how hot he was after X2.
Yeah.
Just like, we're giving you the keys. We haven't been able to crack Superman for over a decade. Just go.
Right.
And this is what they got. And then I think they were like,
right. So prediction now here in the Phantom Zone. It's not out yet. It's a long way away. But as far as we know, because once again, the Phantom Zone, we have no concept of time.
No, yeah, it doesn't.
Do you think James Gunn's going to be the one to do it? You think James Gunn's going to make it work? If you had to take a guess,
my gut is that he will understand the importance of the Lois Clark rom-com element.
Yeah, I think so as well.
If he gets that, then I will be happy.
I'm like ready for I tend to give points of, I also understand this is the way just a lot of normal people watch movies, and that's okay. I like Superman, so if you give me a B Superman, I'll be like, that was good, you know?
Right, sure. Superman, it's interesting because they nailed it first time out of the bat.
Right. That was the perfect Superman movie.
Right out of the gate is what I was trying to say. Yeah. It was just right off the bat. Right
the
out
Superman
of the gate.
movie. You made Superman the movie.
Yes, it's perfect. So
can't do that anymore. What happened to just the movie?
Oh God, what a great title that would be.
It can't just be fucking. Make another Superman's the movie.
Or the sequel, and that's good too.
The sequel.
I think it's gonna. I'm hoping it's good. We'll see. Who knows?
We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not putting too much heart into it.
They all look like trash these days. So, but this is a restart, so maybe they won't go with the DC house style of garbage.
The Batman looked good.
The Batman looked really good.
Batman looked real good.
Batman looked really good.
Of course, they're throwing it away.
The Joker looked good.
Yeah.
Wasn't good, but it looked good.
It had an art department and a cinematographer, and they were going for something. It's not a good movie. It's not a piece of shit. It's not something I ever need to see again.
It's competently made.
It's anybody calling it's basically a Scorsese movie. You haven't seen a fucking movie. Stop.
No, yeah, it's
it's one of those.
If he had absolutely nothing to say.
Yeah. The thing I love, if like people talk about Joker like it's some fucking deep movie, like the fucking pool looks deep if you've never seen the ocean, you know? Like
yes, that's great. Love it.
And that's Joker.
Yeah. Yep.
Not an unpleasant movie,
compared
though, I
to
guess.
Batman v Superman, it's
right. That's the thing. If this is all the shit you watch.
Yeah,
Joker looks like it's really doing something.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch a real fucking movie. You got to expand your palate. Your palate has to mature a little bit here. It's gotta. I'm telling you.
It is the Taxi Driver of superhero movies.
Yeah. It's got to be hard for us to maintain an audience when our show that's effectively tangentially related to superhero movies is hosted by two guys who really can't stand these fucking movies.
It comes from a place of deep affection, though.
Right.
It's just like the Smallville. Like, we love this show, we still do, but we're watching it. It's like, of course, we got to comment on how fucking stupid it is.
Right. You're right.
Look, they make a lot of shitty superhero movies these days. I'm sorry, I wish they didn't.
Yeah.
When they make good ones, we talk about how good they are.
That's true. That's very true. We love the Batman. It's so funny. It's so hard. I was talking to my brother the other day. The Nolan Batman movies come up, which, man, it's funny how different people approach movies, or just normal people who brains are broken. My brother, they're just the Christian Bale Batman movies. Right. Nolan, he doesn't know who that is, and doesn't care to. I could explain it. He's just be like, I don't care about what you just said.
Yeah, what's that? Yeah.
But he was like, I was mentioning the Flash trailer, and the things he was like, it's like, man, the Avengers really like broke these fucking movies, huh? Which, yes, you're right. But he's like, Christian Bale did Batman the best. No more Batman. Stop doing Batman. which is like, it's funny. I'm like, no, man, the Robert Pattinson one is like really good. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
But also, people really get hung up on I like it. I think it's really good. It's in spite of the fact that it's way too fucking long.
Yes.
But I think a lot of people go into that movie like, this movie's really fucking long. You
Dude,
know?
we are in the age of bloat, Brian.
Yeah.
These movies are getting longer and longer, and I don't like it.
And theaters don't like it.
No. And the ones that are good in spite of that, like you said. It's not because.
Right. No, I could. Let me at the Batman with a machete. I could make that into a tighter fucking movie.
A great 2-hour movie.
Yes. All right, man. We've I think I hear the Phantoms on the horizon.
Yeah, we gotta move.
When we find another place to settle back down and pull out the portable DVD player that we have here, we'll be talking about Man of Steel. Meanwhile, though, we're probably going back. I actually don't know. I don't know how time works. It might be more small than next week. It might be. I don't know. I can't speak to time. Next time you're with us in the Phantom Zone, we'll be doing the Man of Steel. And we'll catch you around then. Zach, do you have a question to shout out into the Phantom Zone?
Yeah, I was gonna say, the Smallville gods won't hear me up here.
No, they can't. No, there is no god here.
Yeah. What am I supposed to eat? That's my question for the Phantom Zone. There's no food.
Good night, everybody.